Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Tiny Room. I am your co-host for the podcast, Michael, and I am joined, as always, by the man who has been described as the John Hamm of Irish podcasting. It's Benjamin. Say hello, Benjamin.
Hello, Benjamin. John Hamm of Irish podcasting. I do smoke an inordinate amount of cigarettes and cheat on my wife a lot.
Yes, and you were in that very good episode of Black Mirror.
I was. Unfortunately, I was a bit of a... Well, I don't know. I felt very hard done by the court system there. Oh, no, I didn't kill him. But sure look, listen. It's not my country. Anyway, I am John Hamm.
Yes.
Joined digitally by Michael in the not tiny room in Italy.
Yes.
Hi.
Yeah, it looks very bright and refreshing there where you are, Ben.
It wasn't originally, Michael. It was a bit of a cave when you came across me earlier on today. But sure look, I've opened the windows. I've let in a summer's day. It's lovely.
Ben, we're going to start the podcast with some slightly disappointing news.
Oh.
Yeah, I know. Well, you won't care, so only slightly disappointing for me.
Oh, good. Good.
I've just finished watching season 5 of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Okay.
And they didn't deal with the click.
Oh, what?
Yeah, no reference to it whatsoever.
That doesn't make any sense,
Well,
Michael.
it seems like the last few episodes of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. happened concurrently with the events of Infinity War. So there's no big twist at the end that half of the team disappear. Presumably it all happens off screen.
Oh, that's shit, isn't it?
Yeah. No, it is. You're right. It is. It's pretty disappointing.
Even for a show that I do not like.
Yeah.
That seems a bit...
It was a little disappointing, all right. Having said that, Ben, they did a very good season finale.
Okay. How do we do? Well, you can't really do spoilers, can we?
Does anyone care about Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. spoilers?
I certainly don't.
Yeah, so here's some spoilers for Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. They just wrapped it up. They wrapped it up nicely. It was very much a series finale rather than just a season finale. Funnily enough, though, they got renewed for a 13-episode season 6, which so often happens when they wrap up a show nicely.
Oh, that's awful! Now it has to come back with some new extent. This is very much reminiscent of Supernatural season renewing.
That tends to happen, doesn't it, Ben?
Where we've had our classic kind of season 3, 16 episodes. You know, someone ends up in hell and then is brought back.
It's a kind of self-fulfilling prophecy, isn't it? The TV show is going well enough that they can plan out a really nice ending. That tends to make that show more popular, and then it gets renewed.
Yeah, they've had a spate they've had a bloody TV cull recently.
Yeah,
a lot of big shows have been axed. No, but Brooklyn Nine-Nine, massive comedy in the States, axed.
But then back.
Backed by fan demands. This is the interesting thing. The exact same thing has happened with Lucifer.
Lucifer's back.
Lucifer has been cancelled. It's in talks to be brought back now. It hasn't officially been brought back, but it was cancelled unexpectedly because it's been doing quite well. But the reason it's been cancelled is because Marvel or Disney has bought that division of Warner.
Oh, that's
interesting. And they don't want a DC property on the lot.
Maybe they could fold it into the Arrowverse like they do with every other kind of orphaned TV show.
Yeah, they did it with Constantine, didn't they? Constantine had a little arrow cameo.
And even Supergirl to an extent.
Supergirl is, sorry?
Even Supergirl to an extent, the same thing happened. She was ditched by her own network and then the CW bought it.
They just brought her into the fold.
Exactly.
Interesting. But you were pleased with the overall season series finale?
Look, it was a good series finale, Ben, but again, they'll be back for 13 episodes. Interestingly, they're back for 13 episodes next year after Avengers 4.
Oh, so we will probably have to deal with Fallout in some form.
Well, I think that it's going to start season 6 of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. when everyone is back from the click.
It's going to be... The click is such a bloody ripple event. It's going to affect so many things. I'm still wondering what's going to happen with Netflix.
Well, nothing. They're going to ignore it. Marvel have been hoisted by their own petard. Their whole everything's connected is now proving not to be true because they did something on a huge scale.
Huge scale.
Yeah. Let's move on, Ben. What's the next thing we're talking about?
Well, actually, funnily enough, we're talking about bloody Netflix MCU stuff.
Oh, very good. So I think we planned a podcast.
It's almost like we know what we're doing sometimes. I'm just kidding, listeners. We are hapless and completely and utterly at the mercy of fate.
Yeah. So that thing you said earlier was really funny, but we can't say it on air.
But we can't say it on air because we'll definitely get taken off YouTube or anything else that we put it up on. So the big news, I think, is that Vincent D'Onofrio was slated for season 3 of Daredevil. He has wrapped his filming segment.
You're using slated in the Hollywood sense, not the review sense.
Yes, sorry, not slated as in a bad review. He was rather scheduled to film on season 3 of Daredevil. And
slated being the word that they use in Hollywood when you're scheduled.
But it's because I work in Hollywood, you see, Michael.
You're on the slate. You're John Hamm, essentially.
I'm John Hamm. I've been slated for many roles over the years. Yes. I'm quite popular as a...
with the ladies.
As an actor. Well, I mean, that's your opinion, Michael. It's probably the opinion of some poor blind, deaf and dumb woman.
Look at you there with your one-buttoned shirt open at the top on a sunny Sunday morning, sipping your Campari.
I don't have Campari right now, but I will nip out and get one as soon as this is done. A celebratory post-podcast Campari. A PPC, if you will. A Pipic. So, yeah, moving on from there, D'Onofrio, who is our favourite Kingpin, has wrapped, so I'm looking forward to seeing him. And then during the week, we got some other news in terms of who the kind of...
What other news, Ben?
Because as you know, Kingpin is not really a physical match for Daredevil in terms of speed or running around rooftops or anything like that. He's more of an imposing, menacing, powerful figure. And he often... Go on.
Go on. Yeah, no, you go on.
He often delegates the work out to hired hands. And probably Daredevil's most famous nemesis, Bullseye, has been confirmed, or just about 100% confirmed. Yeah, with an actor chosen and everything.
Who is it?
Wilson Bethel.
I don't know who that is.
Wilson Bethel has starred in things like Nashville and stuff like that, so he's an unusual pick for it. He was originally slated to be, using it again, because it's an industry term. He was originally slotted in to be an unnamed FBI character, and people thought he was going to play a really obscure serial killer in the Marvel Universe called Sin Eater.
Okay.
And Sin Eater is kind of a religious zealot that goes around murdering vigilantes and superheroes. But it has been later confirmed that he will be playing Bullseye. It's not. It's 90% confirmed. I think they're just waiting for an official studio announcement. But I think writers and showrunners have kind of not. I think he himself has kind of stated that he's going to be taking on the role. So that'll be very interesting.
Be better than the Fowler.
He will. He looks the part. If you do a quick search there for Wilson Bethel, he looks the bloody part. He looks properly Bullseye. He has that thing going on. So I'm looking forward to see what they do with the screen. I'd say he'll be a bit manic, bit mental, because he is in the comics. Bullseye is very unhinged. But I think what we might see is kind of an end of the season or mid-season thing where he's horribly disfigured in some form, and we go from there. I think he might start off as an FBI character, maybe corrupt, possibly chasing Daredevil, and I'd say maybe Fisk corrupts him and turns him into Bullseye or something. I don't know. These are just shots in the dark. I quite like Bullseye. I really enjoy him in the comics when he pops up. Him and Deadpool have a really strong dynamic. They do crossover events all the time. And it's really interesting to see the two of them kind of duke it out. It's very entertaining.
Ben, do you think he'll say, I want a fucking costume?
I would imagine that will almost be a direct nod to the original Ben Affleck film, and I'd love to see that happen. I don't think he'll say it, but I'd be very happy if he did. Though. I'd be very happy.
What else, Ben?
What else? So yeah, speaking of Deadpool crossovers with Bullseye, did you see a movie this week, Michael?
I saw several movies this week, Benjamin.
Oh, okay. Did you see a superhero movie this week, Michael?
Yes, I saw Infinity War again.
Oh,
and Deadpool.
Deadpool there we go. We got to it eventually. God, we're good at this. Yeah, so, what do you think?
Ben, are we doing little spoilers?
Oh yeah, full spoilers. I want to do full spoilers because I
love it.
I wanted to talk to somebody about it for a bit. Very meta. It's really cool. There's lots of little references. Go on, give us your honest 2 cents.
Benjamin, I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Yes, I thought it was great, if not as good, if not better than the first one.
I think it was better than the first one, personally speaking. When I went back and watched the first one for the second time, I found it a little bit boring because I'm not a huge fan of the flashback structure of a movie.
Yes, it's a little bit played out.
Yeah. And when Deadpool 2 started in the same way, I was a little concerned.
Yeah, they did very much do flashbacky. They were heavily leaning on flashbacks there for the first part.
But only at the start.
Yeah, I think they definitely sidestepped it and then progressed. Yeah, it was very... I found when I went back and watched the first one, it was a great film. I'm not arguing that for a second, but I found it was very much like it was a fan-made film in certain parts.
Well, it was 10 years in the making.
It was 10 years in the making, and it very much is a fan film on a very small budget. But I think that new budget that they have has really benefited the overall structure of that series. I thought it was very good. It
was thoroughly enjoyable.
Yeah.
It was very funny. The special effects were very good. It was surprising in some ways. Ryan Reynolds still isn't really annoying yet.
He isn't. I don't see. This is the thing. I don't know how Ryan Reynolds does that. Because he should be irritating. If you were to take him and make him a real person, Wade Wilson in this particular case, not Ryan Reynolds, you'd punch him. Like, you just wouldn't. He's just an irritating creature, but it works really well.
He is 6'2", though, Ben. He is 6'2" and in pretty good shape.
Oh no,
I don't know
he could kick.
You want to punch him.
Sorry, he could kick my ass. That's not. That's really not what's.
He'd probably do a flip.
Yeah, that's not what's being argued here at all. But yeah, he just manages to play it very well every time. There's an interesting, funnily enough, the sentimental moments between himself and Vanessa, or they should be cheesy as heck.
Mm-hmm.
And they're not. I don't know how he does that. I don't know whether we just give Reynolds a pass.
He's got that sweet romantic comedy timing.
Yeah, he does. That's a good point. He's a deft hand at the old rom-com timing, and he's been doing it for years.
He's a rom-com man. He's a rom-com man.
This is the thing you forget.
That's his other.
He's so bloody hideous.
Superpower.
Until the reveal there at the end, where they take it all off, and you're like, there's Big Daddy Reynolds. There he is.
I don't know. I was looking at him, and he's like calling himself a burn victim and calling himself ugly. He's the handsomest burn victim I've ever seen.
Because he still has all his eye sockets and stuff. There's nothing.
Yeah,
it's just like a mask that goes over. It doesn't look that bad. Because
he's just a lumpy skin man.
You wouldn't be able to make him that disgusting. It kind of depends on the comic. Some of the comics make him absolutely hideous. And then other comics make him look...
will vomit looking at him.
Yeah, exactly. That's like a whole thing. And he has like deformed flesh hanging over his eye and stuff like that. But they don't do that here. Because you don't take a moneymaker like Ryan Reynolds' face and dust it up too bad. Like, it's not going to happen.
Although, you say that, Ben, one thing I really like about the Deadpool movies, as opposed to the Marvel ones, is the commitment to keeping the bloody mask on.
Oh, he just leaves that on. It just stays.
Yeah. And I love that. In the Marvel movies, anytime someone needs to say something, they take their mask off.
No, it just stays on for this. They spent a fortune on that, apparently. I remember watching a behind the scenes for Deadpool 1, and they tried to come up with lots of different ways to make him do it properly. And the mask actually functions as a speaking device. Like, he can speak using the mask. They spent a fortune on making sure that he could do all that.
Still, though, obviously the lines are dubbed.
Oh no!
What's it called? ADR'd later.
Yeah, that's unavoidable. But it's just interesting that they put so much effort into allowing Ryan Reynolds a chance to speak properly. Because I suppose you'd need that for the timing and stuff when you wanted to sync it up later.
Oh, for sure, yeah. And Ben, what did you think of Joshy B?
Joshy B, much better Thanos than he was at Cable, but I really enjoyed Cable. Much better Thanos. He had a lot more presence as Thanos, obviously because it was a bigger character. But I think he really physically. I think he had a lot of fun playing Cable. Because he just gruffs him up something fierce. He's just
he just gruffs about the place, going,
everyone pretty much. Stop. And I really he's kind of a dick sometimes. I don't like he's a very mishmashed character. Do you know what I mean? He's not this kind of noble time-traveling soldier. I'm referring specifically to the part where he steals the token from Deadpool. the arcade
As a-
token
as a
as a
little-
keepsake.
as a trinket.
I don't know why he does
Yeah.
that. It's just a dick move. It's like something to remember you by, and then he like goes out a window. I like as well that it wasn't an automatic save the kid arc. I thought that was great. He really
kill the kid arc.
Yeah, he really doesn't want to help. No, but even Wade Wilson or Deadpool doesn't want to help the kid at all until he thinks he can get something out of it, and it takes him a big long arc to kind of come around to this. Because I thought they were going to phone it in and be like, this kid's going to be the kid I was supposed to have with Vanessa. I thought they were going to do.
There was still a little hint there, but they didn't go.
No,
full
they didn't go
into
full
it.
whack into it, and I really respect that. In terms of design for Cable, I thought he was great. I thought aesthetically
he
he was
great.
fantastic. David, the guy that did John Wick, did his choreography for a lot of the scenes, and you can really see that John Wick influence when, especially in the final fight between him and all the kind of children's home guards.
Goons,
The goons.
pedophiles.
Like, it's that really swift gun kind of combat style thing. I thought it really suited him.
I like the fight scenes for Cable. Cable is very good. I like when he punches people in the spine with his robot hands.
Yeah, it was really good. I really
Having
liked
said that, Ben, this is the first criticism for me.
on.
Were I a Cable fan, which I'm not particularly,
Yes.
but I mean, I like Cable. But were I a Cable fan, I would feel that he was given a bit of a diff service. It was a bit of a Cable in name and look only.
Yeah, because they still haven't even confirmed if he's a mutant. I mean,
Well, we don't know if he's a mutant or not.
Yeah.
Also, I would have thought, and again, Ben, I'm not the big Cable fan, so I don't care, but I would have thought that comic book Cable wouldn't change the timeline for something as small as saving his own family.
yeah, that doesn't make a lot of sense to me either. Interestingly, he really is an amalgam character because they mentioned that his daughter's name is Hope, and Hope was a big central character in an X-Men arc a couple of years ago, and Cable actually did jump through time with her to save her. He had this whole thing. Deadpool was there. Sorry, it should be pointed out that it's a perfect match for the Deadpool Cable. That was a very successful series for Marvel for a number of years, where Cable and Deadpool
Very good.
kind of tried to save the world together. And they've been tied together ever since they were first created because Mr. Rob Liefeld kind of handled both of them for a very long time. He doesn't really get a fair shake, but he's great as a kind of threat. He's a really good threat, to have looming in the background.
But then promptly replaces the main threat by someone who was kind of surprising, but also we kind of suspected might have been in there somewhere.
Yeah. Bloody.
And
are we going to do full spoilers?
full spoilers, why not?
Juggernaut. Like, just great.
Oh, he was great.
Just great. A little bit of Black Tom Cassidy in there. There was an Irishman in Icebox. It was great. I really enjoyed it.
And
That's just right.
very, very Irishman's his boss.
There's no actor behind that. That's just Ryan Reynolds doing a lower, deeper voice
Yep.
as Juggernaut. I really enjoyed
Juggernaut,
that.
you mean?
Yeah, as Juggernaut. I thought that was great. And they've hinted that he might come back. Oh, do you know what was really great, actually? Was we finally got to see a proper CGI fight as well. Because remember they used to hint at that a lot
Colossus
in the first
and
one.
Juggernaut.
Colossus and Juggernaut. Which, again, really well choreographed. For two big guys having a fight.
That was a great fight.
It was a really good fight. That's another thing I really loved about the choreography. None of this shaky camera. You'll recall, Michael, that I had a bit of a criticism of Black Panther in that the action scenes jump around way too much.
Right.
This was very much fixed camera angle with some dynamic work in there. You know, you always saw the hit connect. If it was Cable hitting someone or if it was Ryan Reynolds. It was really kind of 90s style choreographing, which I know is a bit pastiche and I know people don't like, but I like it in a movie. I like the cool fight scenes. Because if I'm going to watch a film about a super soldier from the future and a mercenary that can regenerate whenever he wants, I've already given up on a realistic fight scene. I just want to see them kick the crap out of each other.
Yeah, just kick the crap out of each other. Just get a big giant metal man to fight a big giant angry man.
Yeah, and there's a nice little throwback to Professor X in there as well. I really love some of the Easter eggs.
Very good. Very good Easter eggs.
Some great Easter eggs. I really love the little Beast, Professor X, Storm cameo in the background, Quicksilver,
that was
closing
very
the parlor
enjoyable.
door.
Just very quickly closing the door. Very nice.
Perfect in the tone of the series, just great. I really enjoyed, the bit where he gets the suit burned at the end.
And he's Black X-Force.
Yeah, that's his X-Force suit. I thought that was really cool. Brad Pitt. Bloody Brad Pitt mutant.
That was very good, wasn't it?
It was great. I really enjoyed all that. I think what's really come out of the whole film for me, and what I really enjoyed about it, is the way they're now, having seen Infinity War and having seen Deadpool 2, I think what really interests me is they seem to be following a brand new way of kind of breaking the mold formula for a lot of these things.
So you're saying they have a formula of breaking the formula?
Absolutely. If it makes money,
contention.
It's not a contention. It makes for more interesting films, I think. But both of them have retconned their major events. So what I mean by that is Infinity War obviously has the big half the universe killed off thing, but we know Avengers Infinity War 2 or Avengers 4 is probably going to mess around with that.
Probably, although wouldn't it be amazing if it didn't?
I would be astounded if it didn't, and I would applaud from my chair, Michael, proudly. Also, two things happen in Deadpool that's fascinating. First of all, we get rid of Vanessa within the first 15 minutes, 20 minutes. Second of all, we get rid of X-Force, except for Zazie Beetz.
Very good, wasn't it?
I thought that was excellent. And I thought it made an amazing scene. I thought it was absolutely hilarious just to watch these different guys crack and Deadpool watch the whole thing. And I think more importantly, it really reaffirms Deadpool's character when he kind of just gets up, brushes it off, and goes on with his business.
Off he goes.
I think
they were just mercenaries.
Yeah, I think that's amazing. I thought that was great. I also love how many big actors they got in to just kill off. They have bloody Terry Crews. They had Bill Skarsgård. You know, those aren't small characters. Those aren't small actors. Brad Pitt, like just in to get rid of them. And then, of course, we had Peter.
It also means, Ben, that we were bang on a couple of weeks ago about Zeitgeist.
Yes. Yeah, he was there. You were absolutely right.
Zeitgeist and Bedlam.
You were absolutely right. But I think
the thing was, though, the great thing there was that, like we actually talked about this, but in Zeitgeist's debut issue of the comic he appeared in, he is killed off gruesomely.
No, so it fits perfect. It's just
in a very similar way, actually, because he gets his lower half blown off, and in this he gets his lower legs chopped just off the bits.
Cut off. I think they work really closely with comic book material in this, because a lot of it is tied in. But the other interesting thing, and probably the more interesting thing about this one, is the after credit scene.
Hold on, you're saying that what you said is more interesting than what I said?
No.
That's what you just said. That's what you just said.
I give up. I want to quit the podcast.
Hold on. Before you go to the after credit scene, let's talk about X-Force a little bit more. Yeah. I think in the same sense that Cable fans are going to be disappointed that Cable wasn't Cable, the Shatterstar fans out there are really going to feel it.
Is there a big Shatterstar? Fascinatingly, mentions
at least 6 of them.
Mentions Mojo World, no problem. He's just like, I'm from Mojo World, which means I'm better at everything.
I'm basically an alien. Also, I think in comics he's a bisexualist.
He is. He will feature later in our episode, Michael.
Very good.
Yeah. Yeah, he definitely is. But he gets 0. He's not cool. He's not. It's just pretty grim. It's just pretty grim. One of the best characters in it, I think, was Domino. She was great.
Domino was excellent.
I really enjoyed her.
Although very underdeveloped. I mean, we'd like to see more from her.
I mean, I think there's definitely going to be a Deadpool 3 or an X-Force film involving the whole gang. Yeah, I think that's going to be a whole thing.
Another, Ben, before you go on and talk about your post-credit scene as well, another classic example of a lying trailer.
Oh yeah, but I think they intentionally did that. I think they were definitely
for sure
building,
like Terry Crews signed on to film fight scenes that he knew weren't in the movie.
Oh, okay. Because they have it in the trailer where he's beating someone up.
Yeah. So Terry Crews filmed those fight scenes knowing full well that his character died and that it was all a big gag.
Wow.
So kudos to him.
Yeah, good job him. I mean, I'm sure he got paid one way or the other, so, hallelujah.
Yeah, that's true.
But
I mean, it can't have been really about being paid, because the Brad Pitt, I mean,
no.
Do you reckon Brad Pitt was even there, or was that just pure CGI and he signed off on his likeness?
Well, I think he might have done a quick, because it looked like Fight Club Brad Pitt.
Yeah, he looked pretty young.
He looked pretty young, so I think he might have just signed off on his likeness.
Yeah, possibly. Ben, sorry, go on. What were you saying?
Anyway, as I was saying, this interesting new thing of breaking the mold and then coming back and fixing it.
What was that?
That was my plate. I banged off a plate with my pen. Very sorry. Okay. There's actually a new tram installed outside my apartment, and that's the bell.
Good.
Yeah, but yeah, they've. So basically, the after credit sequence is quite unusual. Deadpool nicks Cable's watch, has Negasonic Teenage Warhead fix it, and he goes back in time and does a bunch of funny things. He murders Ryan Reynolds before he signs on to the Green Lantern script. He murders X-Men Origins Deadpool.
Yes, also very good.
And he, more importantly, saves Vanessa. He goes back and saves Vanessa in a what can only be described as about a 5-second vignette.
Yeah,
and it's canon. It's been confirmed as canon. She's back. Officially as a result of that. David Leitch, not sure how to pronounce his name, the director of Deadpool 2 anyway, has confirmed it, and the writers confirmed it in Reddit Ask Me Anything, which I think is fascinating to do. They just retcon the entire thing. That whole scene kind of loses its emotional weight a little bit. And again, he argues that it's very much in tone with the film. But I found it really interesting.
Time travel is a bag of dicks, isn't it? Because now that he's done that, did the film ever happen?
That's what I mean. Like, how can the film have happened if he saved Vanessa? Because he never would have gone on that. Well, I suppose they still had to find the kid. He still has the awareness of the future, and he probably still wants to save the kid. So maybe.
But it's such a bag of dicks, isn't it? Time travel. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. was also a little bit got into time travel this year. I hate time travel.
The time travel just ruins things.
Leave it out. Get rid of it.
It just ruins things. I think what's more interesting there is that the director, David Leitch, he actually admitted that originally he thought audiences wouldn't accept Vanessa's death.
Right.
But they have. Audiences were pretty okay with it. In the feedback that they did, they were like, yep, she died. That happened.
It's an interesting... because it's the only thing that they play straight in the whole film is the classic shoving a woman in the fridge.
Yeah, and then they take her right on back out. I think
take her back out of the fridge.
I think
nice
it's
and cool.
It's a nice. Well, it's not a nice, but it's an interesting use of the trope in that she still has quite a bit of agency after being shoved in a fridge. But yeah, it's just, I don't know. We'll see how it pans out. I like her as a character actor. I don't mind Vanessa, or what's her name, Marina Baccarin. Yeah, thank you. I quite like her as an actor, and I'd be happy to see her in future Deadpools. But
Bet you would.
Yeah, it's just interesting. Anyway, I think one of the more interesting things out of any of that, despite all the meta commentary and stuff, we get no mention of Legion on FX.
Well, Ben,
which is
why would you?
Mutantverse.
Come on, it's a pretty small show. Let's be honest.
Yeah, I know. I just thought they might take a dig at it. He takes a dig at everything else.
Interestingly, as Deadpool starts with an unironic refrigerating of a woman, there has been the refrigeration of a woman to what's the word I'm looking for, Ben? To motivate,
to give pathos to the lead character.
To the lead male character in Legion as well.
Classic. Who's been shoved in a fridge then?
Spoilers obviously for Legion here, so hit your pause button. His sister.
I like the sister.
Yeah. His sister gets captured by the Shadow King, and he puts Lenny's soul or mind into her and twists her body into the shape of Lenny.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah. And then everyone's pretty upset about that.
Yeah, that's not great.
So Lenny's alive.
Okay.
But in order to do it, his sister's body was stolen. And we've had 3 episodes on the fallout of his sister dying, basically.
Oh, no. This is...
And his sister dying is 3 very good episodes, mind you.
Yeah, it's still Legion. It's still good, but...
Yeah,
there's a woman in a fridge.
But it's interesting that in 2 nerd properties this week, we had women shoved into the old fridges.
It's not a trope that's going away, Michael. Speaking of, Michael, do you want to do the segue this time, since I'm so John Ham-fisted about it?
Ben, sometimes when also gay people die.
Yeah, so we've talked about women in fridges on the podcast before, Michael, and generally that trope
we have been.
Is exactly as you laid it out. It's a woman who is killed unceremoniously, usually in a violent or gory manner, to prove one of 2 things. One is to show that the bad guy is a real bad egg. You know, he's a real piece of work.
Bloke.
And the other thing is to motivate the hero to like a grander, stronger stage in his story. And this is all at the expense of the woman. But it's not solely the realm of women in this particular case. There is a kind of corresponding or parallel trope for another lesser represented minority in television, film, and popular culture. Burying the gay, or burying your gays, I think is the official term.
And Ben,
yes,
who better to discuss it with respect and thought than two mostly straight white men?
Mostly straight being the key term here. Please don't bash us. Yeah. Yeah. Look, we're looking at this from a pop culture point of view. Obviously, we can't speak about it with any kind of emotional depth in that we are not really affected by the trope on an emotional level. But it's certainly an interesting misuse of characterization and plot. And as we all know, Michael, this podcast is vehemently against inappropriate use of plot and character.
Boo!
It just makes bad television. It just makes bad stories. It's just terrible.
Well, sometimes it makes good stories, and then only when you go back on it later, you go, oh, yeah.
But at a serious cost. And funnily enough, I think because women in fridges has become such a prominent trope, burying your gays became kind of a fallback or a plan B for a lot of writers.
Oh, very good.
Especially around the mid-90s to early 2000s when, women in fridges was a really big thing where we had to treat our women better. And so just to get around that...
ridiculous.
We had our bury your gay trope come back. And one of the more interesting things, I think, is that burying your gays has been a really strong trope for a long time. One of the ways that it often manifests is, and I'm using this in air quotes, is to kind of showcase the tragedy of being gay. Okay?
All right.
And that seems like, and I mean that in very vigorous air quotes. And what that is to be gay in popular culture is to lead a difficult, miserable life. And that a happy ending is not usually extended to a gay character. So I think one of the more prominent examples of that is a couple of years ago, and this really has nothing to do with our podcast. Colin Firth starred in a movie called A Single Man.
Yeah, I think we've talked about it before, or you've talked about it before.
I possibly have.
I've never seen it.
Because this movie has kind of fulfilled an awful lot of these tropes, but one of them is the tragedy of being gay. Spoilers on a movie that came out, I think, 8 years ago. In other words, get over it.
Count.
But Colin Firth plays a repressed homosexual gentleman.
Yes.
In a repressed English society.
Let's call him Neil.
Let's call him Neil.
Neil Gay Man.
And at the end, Colin Firth's character basically keels over, and he dies. And there's no great explanation for this. And one critic from The Guardian has pointed out that his cause of death seems to be the overbearing weight of simply being gay.
Very good.
And you see this trope again and again. Very, very often, what you have is a gay character who either commits suicide, or is assaulted, or is murdered by bigots. And this is certainly not to downplay the fact that gay people are usually the targets of more verbal and physical abuse. But writers always seem to doom the gay character. And it's very reminiscent of horror tropes.
Very interesting.
It's very reminiscent of horror tropes where if you have sex, you die. And it kind of falls into that realm of perversion leading to doom.
Like how Michael Myers only kills the people who had the sex.
Yes, exactly. But in this case, it's gay people. And very often what happens is the more dominant male character, or the more aggressive male character, the pursuer, I suppose, if you want to look at it in a relationship terms.
The man in the relationship, Ben.
Oh, didn't say.
Is that what you're saying?
Didn't say that.
Oh, Ben, you're the worst.
Said the more dominant partner. Or the one who instigates kind of the flirtation or whatever, he's the one that dies.
Okay.
So the more comfortable they are in their own skin, the more doomed they are as they go along.
Give us an example of that, Benjamin.
I think one of the kind of stronger examples that you can see in comic books is North Star. Have you heard of North Star?
North Star. North Star. It's a great big shopping centre. No, that's North Side. I'm sorry. No.
Yeah, you got that wrong.
I've become mixed up.
That's a very Irish bit, Michael.
Of course I've heard of North Star, but for the sake... I know, yeah, three people will find that funny. For the sake of convenience, Ben, imagine that I haven't heard of North Star and explain him to me.
North Star is probably one of the earliest openly gay Marvel characters. He features in the X-Men franchise, and he was part of Alpha Flight, which is Canada's premier super team. And he was part of Alpha Flight. Super speed was kind of his whole thing. And he would run at really high speeds. Anyway, a number of things have happened to North Star over the years. Aside from being openly gay, he contracted the AIDS virus when that was big news.
Classic. Back
in the day. That was later retconned, and it turns out that North Star is not a mutant. He's a member of a fairy race. So he didn't die of AIDS. He died of being a fairy because his fairy blood was weak for the mortal world. So I mean, you have these messy things, but I think one of the stronger examples in that one is the Ultimate X-Men run that he features in. As we all know, Colossus is a gay character in the X-Men Ultimate Universe.
Yes.
He's gay,
and gay robot man.
North Star is the character that tries to convince him to be openly gay.
So it's all about coming out.
Yes, and North Star suffers an overdose in that and dies rather violently. This is later retconned to have him paralyzed from below the waist.
Well, that's fine.
So they kind of retcon it to be more of an Icarus fable where he flies too close to the sun. He flies too close to the gay, and he gets his legs taken away. So again, it's a messy trope, and it recurs again and again and again, where these characters, and now they're kind of picking up the slack for that, where they keep retconning these gay characters that they've murdered in quite often horrific ways, and very often off screen. One of the stronger ones that I remember is Secret Six from DC Comics, written by Gail Simone.
Very good.
They feature two very prominent gay characters in the DC universe. We have Scandal Savage, the daughter of Vandal Savage, and Knockout, who is a survivor.
Scandal Savage?
Yeah, Scandal Savage.
That sounds like a porn star.
She recently featured in the Suicide Squad movie Hell to Pay.
Go
with
on.
Knockout.
I watched that.
And Knockout is from Apocalypse.
Is she the super sexy one?
She's the big redhead powerhouse character.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
She is murdered in a really horrific way and sent to hell to motivate...
In the comic book.
To motivate Scandal. And interestingly enough, Gail Simone never wrote it that way. This was when the series was taken over by another writer, and he murdered... He being the operative term.
Ben.
Yeah.
I knew it would be
because Gail Simone is quite progressive.
Oh, no.
She writes some very decent things.
Oh, come on, lads.
So yeah, she died horribly and off screen or off panel, if you want. And so this trope comes up again and again. Yep.
Do you remember? A Watchmen, the comic book? You've probably heard of it.
I have. It's rather famous.
And do you remember the film adaptation of it?
I do.
Do you remember the character of Silhouette?
Yes, the gay character.
She's a lady lesbian.
She's a lady lesbian.
And in the comic book, Ben, if you remember, she is kicked out of the gang, the group, the crew, the Watchmen, because they find out she's gay and they don't want the scandal.
Mm.
And then later she's killed, but she's killed by a supervillain who's getting revenge for them foiling his plans.
Right.
So she's kicked out of the group because she's gay, but she's not killed because she's gay.
I don't know if that lets you off the hook on that one. I think you're still burying a gay.
Well, yeah. Well, I know what you're saying, Ben. I know. I'm with you. I'm not necessarily.
No, I know.
But anyway, but at least there. Anyway, look. Listen for a second. Zack Snyder thought, I like that, but it's not obvious enough. So in the movie version, she gets killed along with her lady lover. Very specifically because they're gay.
Oh.
If you remember, it's in the opening montage, the great opening montage.
Which was one of the best parts of that entire film.
Yeah, and the sex scenes. Oh, that was creepy. Anyway, yeah, in the Zack Snyder verse, Well, obviously, in the Zack Snyderverse, they have to get killed. They're killed specifically because they're lesbians.
Well, look, a little bit of blood and violence gets Zack off. Who are we to stand in his way?
Well, I mean, it's not the blood and violence. It's the somewhat unnecessary twist of having them be killed because they're lesbians rather than in revenge for their acts.
It's almost like he buried a gay.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying, man. That's why it's relevant to this week's topic.
Okay, I see what you mean. It's really interesting to me, and it seems to happen to lesbian characters far more than it happens to gay men now. And I don't know why that is.
Interesting.
I haven't figured that out yet, but I think more looking at the examples that I have. One of the big great series that came out in the mid 2000s was Runaways. Yes. And Runaways was...
Well, actually, Ben, I'm gonna disagree with you there for a second, because Runaways was designed to be small.
Okay, fair enough.
You know what I mean, though? It was kind of... It's supposed to be a little small, self-contained story. It broke out, but calling... Anyway, sorry, that's irrelevant.
It did break out. No, but you're absolutely right. It did break out. And it kind of expanded beyond its means, but it featured around a bunch of misfit teenagers. You had Carolina, who was lesbian. You had Nico, who was bisexual. You had...
a bisexualist.
And then later on, Carolina hooked up with a Skrull called Zavin, who doesn't really have a gender, but is openly bisexual, mainly due to not having a gender, because it's a shape-shifting Skrull. And then, also around that time, a new series was released called Young Avengers, and they had a crossover event for Civil War, the original Civil War, and they all met each other. And in the Young Avengers lineup, Wiccan and Hulkling were gay characters.
Hulkling's a Skrull as well, isn't he?
Yeah. Hulkling is a Skull-Kree hybrid. So he's kind of a peace token in the Kree Skrull War. But interestingly, in that crossover event, Zavin has his neck snapped. Carolina is kidnapped and tortured. Wiccan is beaten to within an inch of his life. And Hulkling is murdered. Do you want to know how many straight characters suffer any kind of form of physical or torture or murder?
7.
None.
Oh, that's very interesting.
None of the straight characters
was this written
suffer.
by some sort of gay hater?
No, it wasn't a gay hater, because a lot of them come back. But I think what's more important in the trope now is exactly what you were saying. You said that...
I'm very intelligent in a lot of ways.
You are very intelligent, and you've kind of hit the zeitgeist of the moment, not the Deadpool 2 zeitgeist, the zeitgeist in terms of the overall pulse of the people, to quote Ryan Reynolds' Deadpool.
That's what they say about me.
Yeah. The trope seems to have evolved or mutated, because we want to use a negative adjective. Seems to have mutated into not necessarily killing gay, lesbian, or queer character, but more or less injuring them horrifically, or maiming them, or damaging them. It seems
that's
to
much
be
better.
a way. Yeah, but it seems to be a way to say, "Hey, I didn't kill him," and it's kind of backing away slowly from the issue, but it doesn't really help. Yeah, for me, it's a really interesting trope. I wasn't actually as aware of it until you gave me the topic for this week's podcast, and I've had a very interesting week I had always known that marginalized characters were abused in various things, but I wasn't aware of the scope and kind of issue that it was causing, especially in TV and stuff. And then I came to the question of why we do this. And again, I think it's one of these things that's just to propel plot. It used to be women because I think the social perception of women, and the very outdated social perception of women, is that they're weaker or more sensitive or less capable. And I do stress that this is an outdated way of looking at women.
Yeah, well, also, Ben, that's the social perception from the comic book nerd world.
Absolutely.
Of the olden days. Here's the thing, though. I follow you. I get what you're saying. And it is very much kind of... They're killing off the characters. Basically, you're killing or injuring characters to motivate your lead character.
Yeah.
And the reason that it was always women in the past was that your lead character was always a straight man.
Fair.
And the easiest way to motivate him was to kill his wife or girlfriend or mother or...
Classic.
something like that.
Dead
But
moans.
now, in a world that we live in, where you can have lead characters who aren't straight white men, you can motivate other characters by killing off their girlfriends or boyfriends, or you know what I mean?
Yeah, and it's a very modern thing. It's I think
let's talk.
No, go on.
Go on,
no,
sorry.
you go ahead.
No, go on.
You go ahead. You had something to say.
No, you go ahead.
Okay, fine. I'm going to
talk about Transformers.
Yeah, go on.
So
talk about Transformers. Go on. Get your Transformers in before we finish the episode. Go on.
Ben, I like Transformers.
I know you do. Go on. Tell me more about Transformers.
Ben,
I didn't know, Michael, that Transformers had
on.
sexuality.
Well, there you go, Ben. Do you find lady robots attractive, Ben?
No.
Well, neither do I, so good.
That's definitely true.
No, so Transformers, right? Transformers, it's such a weird thing to try and make a series out of, really.
Yeah.
Toy robots that turn into cars. And making them into personalities. I think the Japanese people had the right idea when they invented them, that they were just piloted robots, basically. Because giving them personalities throws up so many issues. But one of the issues is that Cybertronians are overwhelmingly male.
Okay, fair enough.
There are a few kind of female-y ones.
Female-y.
And, yeah, in the recent ones by IDW, the IDW comics, we won't even get into RC, who is a kind of transgender character that's just, full of issues, Ben. We won't even talk about that. Okay. She was experimented on and made female. Originally all Transformers were male, and then an evil scientist, did an experiment to try and make a female. See how that would go. And she became really angry and murderous. But anyway,
it's very Joseph Mengele, isn't it? That's a bit messy.
Yeah, a little bit. He's a very Mengele character.
Mengelian
but anyway,
Transformer.
Then they find a colony of kind of female identifying robots. But anyway, look, I'm off topic. My main point is that in a genderless society where all characters are kind of by default male, it means that homosexual relationships are the norm. So anytime there's a romantic, we're not even talking about sexuality. We're talking about romance and love. It's called conjux injura, so like permanent joining.
Conjux injura. Okay.
So like Transformers. Basically, a lot of Transformers have husbands. And James Roberts, who writes More Than Meets the Eye and Lost Light, and is probably my favorite Transformers writer ever. He likes killing off the smaller, seemingly weaker, more feminine one. The most famous one. Well, I'm not actually saying this as entirely a negative thing, because like Deadpool, he often undoes it or is making a broader point. So I'm not saying that it's necessarily sloppy. But the most famous case is Rewind. Rewind turns into a memory stick. And Rewind is in a relationship with Chrome Dome. And Chrome Dome is a memo surgeon. He's a memory surgeon. And look, it doesn't really matter who they are specifically, but Chrome Dome has been involved in an experiment on Overlord. Do you remember Overlord, Ben? We talked about a few.
Overlord was the real bad egg.
Yeah, he's the worst Transformers baddie. He's the weapon of mass destruction in human form. Well,
he's the world ender.
Form. Yes, exactly. So Chrome Dome has been keeping Overlord on the ship secretly and experimenting on him under orders. But to try and find out stuff or whatnot. But when Overlord escapes,
naturally,
Rewind, Chrome Dome's Conjux Injura, is the one who is killed. Well, a few people are killed, but he's the most notable death. At Overlord's hands, and Overlord very much rubs it in Chrome Dome's face.
Nice.
When Rewind is being killed. Now they do later bring him back through time travel and alternate universe shenanigans.
Classic.
But yeah, we also find out that Rewind wasn't Chrome Dome's first Conjux Injura. He's had 5 or 6, and they've all died horribly.
God.
And yeah, it's interesting. It's another case of it's killing off. I would say I don't want to say that Rewind is the more feminine character because he's smaller and more sensitive.
Well, you've said it now.
But I have kind of said it.
Yeah.
But it's killing off the weaker character.
The perceived
physically.
weaker character.
Yeah, the perceived weaker physically. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
To motivate basically the main character.
Yeah.
The other interesting thing about Chrome Dome is Chrome Dome isn't his real name in Transformers. His real name is Tumblr.
Okay.
Which I think is a little reference to how popular the website Tumblr is in the gay community.
Yeah, well, that's fair. There's a bunch of slash fiction and slash fan art and stuff like that. Are you doing another Captain America Flex Day? For the love of God. For those of you that can't see it, Michael is now flexing his biceps on screen.
It's nothing to do with the topic, Ben.
He's having a lovely, lovely time. He's actually winking at the various Transformers action figures that he has next to him. It's all getting messy. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, to wrap it up for this week, what did you think of this trope of burying the gays? Do you have any pet peeves? Have you had any famous characters that have really annoyed you when they've just been killed off for a bit of plot motivation?
Tara from Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
For one key example of that. Let us know what you think. Does that annoy you? Let us know what you thought about Deadpool 2, if you've seen it. And of course, as always, give us now like, share, and subscribe down there. Go on, give us now.
Like, share, and subscribe.
Give us now a thumbs up there. Anyway, we will see you next week for our next topic, which we haven't discussed yet. Okay, everybody, bye.
Bye.